Today we'll be learning about the minor prophet whose name was Jonah. We'll be doing our lesson a little bit differently today because you'll be helping me to make a pop-up book. We'll be starting with pages that I've already sent to your parents. The first is our cover sheet. You'll notice that it's on a little bit thicker paper so that it's easier to make it into a book. We'll take our sheet, we'll fold it directly in half, and this makes the cover. Here's the front, there's the back, and notice it's set up so that you can color it any way that you want. Well, when we look at the next page, you'll notice that it is a map. And this map is pretty important because as we learn about Jonah, we'll learn where Jonah was supposed to go and where he really did go. But you'll notice on the page, and this will be true of every page in your book, that there's some dotted lines there. What I want you to do is fold your page in half with the picture on the outside portion. And we'll take a pair of scissors and we'll cut on those dotted lines, stop where the dotted lines stop, and then when we open our book again, this time we'll fold it to the inside, and you may have to push with your finger. Now, the area that you cut made a little tab. Notice that it's missing when it's folded this way. But this will be important in order to make our book a pop-up book. One of your pages has little figures that we can cut out, and on this page we need a picture of a ship so that it shows that the ship was traveling on a certain path. And what we'll do is we'll take our glue and we'll put just a drop of glue on the tab, and then we'll take our picture, put it into place. You want to make sure that you put it way to the side so that when you close your book, the picture stays in place. It may even be helpful to start off with a little piece of tape to hold it in place then. So we'll take our tape, put it on the tab there, put it where you've put the glue on the tab, and that will help to hold it till your glue dries. Then when you fold your book, your picture will be on the inside. Remember, don't put too much glue or else you might not be able to open the pages of your book. But then you'll take the page and slide it to the inside of your cover sheet. On the section that has no picture, you'll put some more glue. Put it all the way around the edges. And then that way, when you close those pages together, it will glue into the inside. And you'll do that with every next page. Open to the next spot. Take the next page in your book. Fold it. Cut on the tab. Fold it in half. Slide it into the next side. Glue the blank pages together, and then that's the way you get each of the pages in your book. And don't forget to glue the pictures that belong on the tabs. I've got one already done so that you'll be able to see how it works. So here's our book about Jonah. We'll start reading in our pop-up book, and then you'll see how you'll do your own. Notice that on the pages there are blanks and there's also Bible verses. That's the area that we'll be able to get our information to fill in our blanks. Let's start off reading. This tells me that our first verses are in Jonah Chapter 1. We're going to be reading verses 1 through 3. So I want you to listen up and see if you can hear what goes into the blanks of your book. Jonah chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. The Lord spoke to Jonah, son of Amittai. Nineveh is a big city. I have heard about many evil things that the people are doing there. So go there and tell them to stop doing such evil things. Let's look at the first page and let's see how this works. God told Jonah to go to the city of, what was it? Did you hear? The city of Nineveh. This is Nineveh here on your map. That's where he was supposed to go. But let's see in verse 3 what Jonah really did. But Jonah tried to run away from the Lord. Do you think that anyone can really run from God? No. Let's listen and see what kind of trouble Jonah got into because he tried to run away. I'm still reading in verse 3. He went to Joppa and found a boat that was headed to the faraway city of Tarshish. So Joppa is here underneath where the boat is, and Tarshish is here. See how far away he tried to get from Nineveh? So in order to keep track of what happened, I want you to take a red marker and I want you to draw a line from the area of Joppa all the way over to where Tarshish is. That's where he went. Just draw a line with your marker, or you can use a color if you'd like. But where was he supposed to go? To the city of Nineveh. Let's take a green marker and draw from where he started out up to the city of Nineveh. Now you know where he should have gone compared to where he did. But remember, he didn't listen to God. Let's turn our page and see what happened. Oh, goodness. What's it look like happening? Do you see this cloud blowing in a big storm? Let's see. Our verses start over here. It says we're going to read Jonah chapter 1, verses 4 through 6. Let's read that first. But the Lord brought a great storm on the sea. The wind made the sea very rough. You see, it looks pretty stormy. The storm was very strong, and the boat was about to break apart. The men wanted to make the boat lighter and to stop it from sinking, so they began throwing the cargo into the sea. The sailors were very afraid. Each man began praying to his God. Now notice that they didn't pray to the God that Jonah believed in, the one true God. They began praying to all of these other gods. Do you think that helped? No, their gods couldn't do anything because they weren't real. Jonah's God was, but remember, Jonah had tried to disobey and run the other way. But let's see what happened. On the bottom here, it tells us to look at Jonah 1, verse 10. So let's read it and see if we can figure out what this blank is for. Jonah told the men that he was running away from the Lord. The men became very afraid when they learned this. They asked Jonah, "What terrible thing did you do against your God?" So Jonah told them the story of what God had really told him to do and what he did instead. Well, when the men asked, "What do we do now?" Jonah told them there was only one answer, and that was to throw Jonah into the water, and that way they would be saved, and God would do what he wanted with Jonah. The men became very afraid. Let's see what happened. Jonah chapter 1, verses 14 through 17. Jonah told them to throw him into the sea. Let's see what happened then. So the men cried to the Lord, "Lord, please don't say we are guilty of killing an innocent man. Please don't make us die for killing him. We know that you are the Lord, and you will do whatever you want." You see, even though Jonah had not obeyed God, God used this circumstance to teach people who didn't believe in God that he was the true God. And those men began to believe. They threw Jonah overboard, let's see what happened. So the men threw Jonah into the sea, and the storm stopped, and the sea became calm. When the men saw this, they began to fear and respect the Lord. They offered a sacrifice and made special promises to the Lord. When Jonah fell into the sea, the Lord chose a very big fish to come and swallow Jonah. He was in the stomach of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. You see Jonah falling in? And think about, what did the Bible say happened when the men threw Jonah overboard? Don't forget to fill in your blanks. Here's another page that you can color, and here's the inside of the fish's stomach. Remember what we said in verse 17? It said, when Jonah fell into the sea, the Lord chose a very big fish to swallow Jonah. He was in the stomach of the fish for how long? For 3 days and 3 nights. Now let's look at chapter 2 and read verses 1 and 2 to see what happened. While Jonah was in the stomach of the fish, he prayed to the Lord his God. This is what his prayer was. I was in very bad trouble. I called to the Lord for help, and he answered me. I was deep in the grave. I cried to you, Lord, and you heard my voice. Jonah learned at that point that not only did the men that were in the ship need to turn to God, but he needed to return to God. And that was his prayer, and he recognized that God had heard him. Now we're going to look into chapter 3, and we're going to read verses 1 through 10 to see what happened next. Then the Lord spoke to Jonah again and said, go to that big city, Nineveh, and say what I will tell you. Do you think that Jonah did what God wanted him to do this time? Well, let's see by looking at verse 2. So Jonah obeyed the Lord, and he went to Nineveh. It was a very large city. A person had to walk for 3 days to travel through it. Jonah went to the center of the city, and he began to preach to the people there. He said, after 40 days, Nineveh will be destroyed. What do you think the people did when they heard that? Verse 5, the people of Nineveh believed in God. They decided to stop eating for a time to think about their sins. They put on special clothes to show that they were sorry. All the people in the city did this, from the most important to the least important. When the king of Nineveh heard about this, he left his throne. He put on special clothes to show that he was sorry and sat in ashes. The king wrote a special message and sent it throughout all of the city. A command from the king and his great rulers. For a short time, no person or animal should eat anything. No herd or flock will be allowed in the fields. Nothing living in Nineveh will eat or drink water. But every person and every animal must be covered with a special cloth to show that they are sad. People must cry loudly to God. Everyone must change their life and stop doing bad things. Who knows? Maybe God will stop being angry and change his mind, and we will not be punished. What do you think that God did when the people said that they were sorry and wanted to repent from their sins? Well, let's look at verse 10. God saw what the people did. He saw that they stopped doing evil. So God changed his mind and did not do what he had planned. He did not punish the people. What do you think the biggest thing that Jonah learned in this lesson? Well, I think that the biggest lesson for Jonah was that he couldn't choose who God would forgive and who God would not forgive. And you know what? We can't choose either. It's up to God to decide who will be forgiven. And anytime anyone repents of their sins and turns back to God, God has said that he will forgive. And that's what the people of Nineveh did. Do you remember our memory verse? We introduced it last week. Well, it's what's on the back cover of your book. Let's look at it together. Micah chapter 6, verse 8. And it says, "He has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God." That's the lesson that the people of Nineveh learned last week. We need to learn that we can't just choose who we're going to be good to and who we're not going to be good to. We can't just be good to the people that we like. We should always be good to everyone, as much as within our power to do so. It's our job, just like it was the job of Jonah, to show God's love to others. I want you to think about that and keep working on your memory verse. I look forward to talking to you again next week. Hope you have a good rest of your week and enjoy making your pop-up book about Jonah. Bye now.